not quite harm. I mean, do I wish that I didn't get my picture taken and while I was eating a sandwich on the streets of New York? Yeah, you know.
Because it
but
strikes me that you're actually a very private person, that you don't appreciate.
At 61, Keanu Reeves walks the streets of Los Angeles alone, rides the subway like any ordinary person, and eats his lunch on park benches while the world rushes by. People call him humble. They call him kind. They call him the internet's boyfriend. But what they don't see is the shadow that follows him everywhere. The ghosts of a daughter who never took her first breath, a soulmate who never got to see their future, and a best friend whose life ended on a sidewalk outside a nightclub on Halloween night. From the boy abandoned by his father in Beirut to the man who gave away millions because money lost all meaning, Keanu's journey is one of relentless heartbreak, masked by an almost supernatural grace. Today, we're going to walk through that journey, through the moments that broke him, the people who betrayed him, and the tragedy that, at 61, still shapes every quiet moment of his existence. Because behind every smile, behind every act of kindness caught on camera, there's a man who understands loss in ways most of us will never have to. And maybe that's exactly why we love him. The Broken Foundation. September 2nd, 1964. Beirut, Lebanon. A child was born into chaos, and chaos would never quite let him go. Keanu Charles Reeves entered the world with a name that means cool breeze over the mountains in Hawaiian, a poetic contrast to the turbulent life that awaited him. His father, Samuel Nowlin Reeves, was a geologist with a taste for the high life and substances that would eventually land him behind bars. His mother, Patricia Taylor, was a costume designer with dreams bigger than the reality she'd married into. When Keanu was just 3 years old, Samuel walked out. Not in a dramatic fight or a tearful goodbye, but in the way people leave when they've decided their own demons matter more than their children. Patricia was left to raise Keanu and his younger sister Kim alone, and what followed was a childhood defined by constant movement. Australia for a while, then New York, then Toronto. 4 different high schools before Keanu turned 17. Home was never a place. It was just wherever they happened to land that year. School was its own battlefield. Keanu struggled with dyslexia at a time when learning differences were barely understood, let alone accommodated. Teachers labeled him difficult. Classmates moved on while he stayed behind, wrestling with words that seemed to rearrange themselves on the page. But there was one place where everything made sense: the ice rink. Hockey became his escape, his language, the one thing he excelled at without question. He was good, really good, good enough that NHL scouts started paying attention to the lanky kid with the wicked slap shot. And then, as if the universe needed to remind him that nothing good lasts, an injury ended it all. Just like that. The dream that had carried him through the chaos of moving cities and broken homes shattered against the boards during one unlucky game. Years later, Keanu would describe his father in an interview with Rolling Stone with a chilling detachment. "I don't have any emotions about him," he said. And somehow, that's more devastating than anger would have been. His father would go on to serve time for possession, and Keanu would meet him exactly twice more in his entire life. Twice. Most people see their father at least twice a year. This wasn't just abandonment. This was a blueprint for every relationship that would follow. A deep-seated belief that the people you love will eventually walk away, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. Rise to stardom, and the brother he lost. When the hockey dream died, something unexpected happened. Keanu found theater. Or maybe theater found him. It's hard to say. What started as a way to fill the void left by sports became an obsession. He threw himself into acting with the same intensity he'd brought to the ice, performing in Toronto productions and odd television roles. By 1986, at just 22 years old, Keanu had saved up $3,000 and bought a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. No connections, no backup plan, just a duffel bag and a dream that probably seemed ridiculous to everyone who knew him. The late 80s were kind to Keanu in ways his childhood never had been. River's Edge in 1987 put him on the map. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in 1989 made him a household name, even if Hollywood couldn't quite figure out if he was a serious actor or just a pretty face with good comedic timing. But it was 1991 that changed everything, and not because of box office numbers. That was the year Keanu met River Phoenix on the set of My Own Private Idaho. Gus Van Sant's raw exploration of street hustlers and fractured identity. River was different. He was sensitive in a way Hollywood usually punishes, talented in a way that made other actors jealous, and kind in a way that felt genuine rather than calculated. He and Keanu became inseparable. They'd talk for hours about art, about the emptiness of fame, about what it meant to stay human in an industry designed to turn people into products. River understood the weight Keanu carried from his childhood. Keanu understood the pressure River felt as a young actor drowning in expectations. They were brothers in every way that mattered. Blood be damned. October 31st, 1993. Halloween night. River Phoenix collapsed outside the Viper Room on Sunset Boulevard after taking a lethal combination of substances. His brother Joaquin called 911, frantic and helpless. By the time paramedics arrived, River was gone. He was 23 years old. Keanu didn't speak publicly about River's passing for years. When he finally did, his words were careful, measured, like he was trying not to crack open in front of the cameras. He was a remarkable human person and actor, and we got along very well, he told a reporter. And if you listen closely, you can hear everything he's not saying. The roles Keanu chose afterward got darker. Point Break had already shown his range, but now there was something else in his performances. A hollowness that felt too real to be acting. By the time The Matrix came around in 1999, Keanu Reeves was already a star. Speed had proven he could carry an action film. The Devil's Advocate showed he could go toe-to-toe with Al Pacino. But The Matrix made him an icon, a generation-defining figure in a film that asked what's real and what's illusion. The irony, of course, is that while Neo was discovering truth in a digital world, Keanu was about to face a reality more brutal than any simulation could conjure. The ultimate tragedy. Her name was Jennifer Syme, and she walked into Keanu's life in 1998 at a party for his band Dogstar. Yes, Keanu had a band because apparently acting and motorcycles and deep existential dread weren't enough to fill the hours. Jennifer worked as an assistant to director David Lynch, which tells you something about her tolerance for the weird and wonderful. They clicked immediately, not in the loud, explosive way of Hollywood romances, but in the quiet way of two people who recognize something essential in each other. By 1999, they were living together, and Jennifer was pregnant. Keanu, the man who'd grown up without a father, who'd lost his best friend, who'd spent his entire life believing good things don't last, was going to be a dad. He was terrified and thrilled in equal measure, buying baby books, talking about cutting back on stunts, imagining a future that finally included someone who would call him Dad instead of just Keanu. They named her Ava Archer Syme Reeves. On December 24, 1999, 8 months into the pregnancy, Jennifer went into labor. Something was wrong. The doctors worked frantically, but when Ava was born, she wasn't breathing. she had never breathed. Stillborn, on Christmas Eve, the daughter Keanu had dreamed about, had planned for, had finally allowed himself to hope for, was gone before she ever arrived. The hospital room must have felt like a tomb. Jennifer, devastated beyond words, her body recovering from labor while her heart shattered into pieces no doctor could reassemble. Keanu, holding a daughter who would never open her eyes, never cry, never call him dad. There's a photo that circulated years later of Keanu looking absolutely destroyed at Ava's funeral, and it's one of those images that feels wrong to even look at, like you're witnessing something too private, too sacred, too unbearably sad. The loss of Ava did what tragedies often do. It didn't bring Jennifer and Keanu closer. It drove them apart. By early 2000, they had quietly separated, both drowning in their own ways, unable to save each other because they couldn't even save themselves. April 2nd, 2001, just over a year after Ava's stillbirth. Jennifer was driving alone in Los Angeles when her Jeep Cherokee crashed into a row of parked cars. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She passed away on impact. She was 28 years old. Some reports suggested she'd been struggling, that the grief over Ava had never loosened its grip. Others pointed to the party she'd attended earlier that night, the substances that might have impaired her judgment. But the details almost don't matter, because the result is the same. Keanu lost his daughter and the mother of his child within 18 months. He was filming the Matrix sequels when he got the news. Imagine that for a moment. You're on the biggest set in Hollywood, surrounded by hundreds of people, cameras rolling, and someone pulls you aside to tell you the woman you loved, the woman you'd hoped to build a life with, is gone. Keanu shut down production for a week. When he came back, crew members said he was different, quieter, like a light had gone out somewhere deep inside. To this day, Keanu refuses to discuss Jennifer in interviews, not because he's moved on, but because some wounds don't close, they just get covered up. Sisters battle and silent heroism. If life were fair, that would have been enough. Losing a best friend, a daughter, and a soulmate should exhaust anyone's quota of suffering. But life, as we've established, has never been particularly fair to Keanu Reeves. In the early 90s, around the same time River Phoenix was spiraling toward his tragic end, Keanu's younger sister Kim was diagnosed with leukemia. The little girl who'd moved cities with him, who'd understood what it meant to grow up without a father, was now fighting for her life. Keanu didn't make a big public announcement. He didn't start a flashy foundation with galas and celebrity endorsements. He just quietly stepped back from Hollywood, sold his house, and moved in with Kim to take care of her. For years, while she underwent treatment, he was there, driving her to appointments, sitting with her during chemotherapy, researching experimental treatments, and flying her to specialists around the world. He spent millions on her care, and when people asked about it, he shrugged it off like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "She's my sister," he said once, as if that explained everything. And maybe it does. Kim eventually went into remission, but the experience left its mark on Keanu. He set up a private cancer foundation, funding research and treatment for others fighting the same battle his sister had faced. He didn't name it after himself. He didn't use it for publicity. For years, most people didn't even know it existed. That's the thing about Keanu's generosity. It's not performative. It's just who he is. When The Matrix turned him into one of the highest-paid actors on the planet, Keanu did something Hollywood had never seen before. He gave away roughly $75 million to the special effects and costume design teams. Not because he had to, not because of some contractual obligation, but because he felt they deserved it. There are dozens of stories like this. Keanu taking pay cuts so directors could afford to cast other actors he believed in. Keanu buying motorcycles for his stunt team after wrapping John Wick. Keanu giving up his seat on the subway to a woman with a heavy bag. Keanu eating lunch with construction workers and homeless people, treating them with the same respect he'd give a billionaire producer. People started calling him the nicest guy in Hollywood, and while it's meant as a compliment, it also feels like we're missing the point. Keanu isn't nice because he's trying to be. He's kind because he understands suffering, and he doesn't want anyone else to feel what he's felt. Loneliness and redemption. In 2010, a paparazzi photo went viral. It showed Keanu Reeves sitting alone on a park bench in New York, eating a sandwich, looking contemplative. The internet did what the internet does, turned it into a meme. Sad Keanu, the lonely movie star. People made jokes, created photoshops, laughed at the image of this wealthy actor sitting alone with his lunch. But here's what the meme missed entirely. That photo captured something devastatingly real. This was a man who had lost his daughter, his love, and his best friend. A man who'd spent decades surrounded by people but rarely felt less alone. The sandwich wasn't sad. The life that led to that moment was. Keanu has spoken more openly in recent years about loneliness, about the reality of being 61 and unmarried and childless, not by choice, but by circumstance. Do I wish I'd found someone and had kids? Yeah, he told Esquire. I think about it sometimes, about what might have been. He paused for a long time after saying that, the journalist noted, like he was seeing a life that could have existed in some other timeline, where December 24th, 1999 ended differently. But then, just when it seemed like loneliness might be his permanent state, Alexandra Grant appeared. Or rather, reappeared. They'd first met in 2009 at a dinner party, bonding over art and literature. Alexandra is an accomplished artist, the kind of person who thinks deeply about the world and creates beauty from complexity. They collaborated on books together, became close friends, and somewhere along the way, friendship deepened into something more. They went public with their relationship in 2019, walking a red carpet hand in hand, and the internet collectively lost its mind in the best possible way. But Keanu's approach to this relationship is noticeably different from his past. He's protective, almost cautious. In interviews, he keeps details vague, refuses to discuss their private life beyond current state at 61. The John Wick franchise turned Keanu into an action legend all over again, proving that at 61, he can still do stunts that would hospitalize actors half his age. But there's something eerie about watching those films when you know Keanu's story. John Wick is a man driven by loss, by the senseless violence that took his wife, by the rage that comes when grief has nowhere else to go. Keanu doesn't have to act those scenes, he just has to remember. Directors have said he brings a weight to John Wick that's impossible to fake, a hollowness in the eyes that makes you believe this character has truly lost everything. Because, well, Keanu has. At 61, Keanu looks tired in a way that has nothing to do with age. His hair is gray now. His face carries lines that weren't there a decade ago. He still does his own stunts, still rides his motorcycles, still shows up to work with the same professionalism he had at 22. But there's a weariness underneath it all. Like he's just going through the motions because what else is there to do? Mortality is something I think about, he admitted recently. More now than ever. He's at that age where the past feels longer than the future, where the list of people he's lost keeps growing, where every birthday is a reminder of all the birthdays Ava will never have. But here's the thing about Keanu Reeves. For all the tragedy, for all the loss, For all the reasons he has to be bitter and angry and cruel, he's none of those things. He's kind, he's generous, he's patient with fans and respectful to journalists and decent to strangers. That's not despite his suffering. That's because of it. He knows what pain feels like, so he tries not to inflict it on others. He knows what loss feels like, so he tries to make people feel valued while they're still here. His tragedy didn't make him hard. It made him human in a way that Hollywood rarely allows. At 61, Keanu Reeves carries ghosts that no amount of money or fame can exorcise. Ava Archer, the daughter who never breathed. Jennifer Syme, the woman who might have been his forever. River Phoenix, the brother who understood him when no one else could. They walk with him through every quiet moment, every subway ride, every lunch on a park bench that the internet turns into a meme without understanding the context. People love Keanu because he's kind, but maybe we should love him because he's real. Because he's lived through the kind of pain that breaks most people, and instead of letting it make him cruel, he chose to let it make him compassionate. His story isn't heartbreaking because bad things happen to a famous person. It's heartbreaking because good things should have happened to a good person, and they didn't. So, what moment from Keanu's life touched you most? Was it learning about Ava and Jennifer? Was it realizing the sad Keanu meme was actually a portrait of profound loneliness? Was it understanding that his generosity comes from loss? Drop a comment below, because these stories matter. They remind us that even heroes break, that even the strongest among us carry scars we'll never see. If you want to keep exploring the real stories behind Hollywood's brightest stars, hit that subscribe button. Because in the end, what makes Keanu Reeves extraordinary isn't his movies. It's his humanity, forged in unimaginable pain, and somehow still intact after 61 years of reasons to let it die.